Okay, hey everybody, Mr. Jones here, and we're going to go over some equations here that involve distribution. Okay, so I'm going to review with you what distribution is and how we distribute, and then we're going to apply that to some equations here on the right. Okay, so distribution, again, something you might probably would have seen in middle school, but distribution is where we are, right? You think about the word to distribute. What does it mean to distribute something? Well, that kind of means like if I'm standing in front of a class right now and I'm distributing papers, that means everybody in the class is getting that piece of paper. I'm distributing, I'm handing out that piece of paper to everybody, right? And distribution is in math is kind of the same, where we are almost like giving each of these terms that are in this group, we're giving them this outside thing, this outside number. Okay, I'm gonna explain what that means, but yeah, just think about the word to distribute, and it's kind of the same. Everything in the group gets this. Okay, so what does that look like? Well, there is a little multiplication here that it's not showing. So this is actually saying 3 times this group, okay? And this is what it means to distribute. It means we are going to multiply 3 times each of the terms in this group, okay? So what I like to do, I call it drawing the rainbows, okay, or your little curves to illustrate that you are going to multiply this 3 times this 2x. So I'll spell it out a little bit more here down below. But 3 times 2x, that's going to happen. But again, we're distributing, we're multiplying this 3 times every term that's in the group, okay? So I'm also going to multiply this 3 times this negative 5. So two separate multiplications happen here, 3 times 2x and 3 times the negative 5, okay? So what do I get when I do that? Well, this is a little bit confusing because you might say, oh, can you multiply those because this has an x with it? Well, actually you can, because if you remember 2x, when I have that, this is actually saying 2 times x, okay? So these already had a little multiplication that it wasn't showing, but so really what this is saying is 3 times 2 times x, okay? And I can multiply the two like things together, 3 times 2. 3 times 2 is 6. But I can't multiply a number with this variable or this unknown number. So I just have to leave it as x. But really, this is saying 6 times x or 6x. So I can multiply the two numbers, but I can't really combine the x. So that makes it 6x, okay? Then again, separately, I have to do this 3 times negative 5. And those don't have variables, so I can just multiply those. 3 times negative 5 would be a negative 15. Okay. Or again, I would say this as 6x minus 15. Okay. And this isn't an equation necessarily, but that's just an example of how we distribute, how we multiply a single term times a group. Okay. But let's make this into an equation. What if I made this 3x or 3 times 2x minus 5 equals 12? If I said this is now an equation, right? A characteristic of an equation is that it has an equal sign, right? So now it has an equal sign, and that means it has two different sides to it, okay? So this would no longer be the answer. And so if I say 6x minus 15 equals 12, what I can do is solve this equation, okay? And so basically when you have this group, these showing distribution, right? A number times a group, like it does in each of these, the first thing you want to do is actually distribute that. Okay, you want to distribute that number times the group, and then you can solve it like you would solve any other equation. So it's kind of an extra first step in the process. Okay, but now I look at this, right? 6x minus 15 equals 12. And again, you can solve that by isolating the x or getting the x by itself. So again, you look at that and you think, okay, what should I do first? Well, we do our adding first. So I'm going to cancel this minus 15 with a plus 15, right? But then our golden rule of algebra, what I do to one side, I have to do to the other side, right? So I plus 15 over here, and I get 6x equals 12 plus 15. I can combine those to get 27, okay? And now x is almost by itself, right? You have to think, okay, how can I cancel out this other number with it? Well, remember, again, 6x is saying 6 times the x. So you cancel out the multiplication with division, okay? So you divide both sides by the 6 to cancel that, okay? Now I'm going to end up getting a decimal here, and that's okay. That happens sometimes, okay? And again, always use a calculator to check your answer, but 27 divided by 6 ends up being 4.5, okay? So again, what does that mean? Well, that means that, again, this x value in here, this x value has to be 4.5 for this to be a true math statement, okay? So this is saying 3 times the group, 2 times 4.5 minus 5 equals 12, okay? So if you substituted that 4.5 in there for x and kind of worked that out, you would end up, this side would simplify to equal 12, okay? And so that's what we found, okay? So now I'm going to walk through these guys. And again, you're welcome to just pause the video at any time and just try these yourself. But I'm going to just try to work through these three the same way. 2 times the group, x plus 4, equals 14. Okay, so again, same idea. We draw our line down from our equal sign, okay? And I'm looking at this. My first step is going to be to distribute, okay? To distribute this 2 to this group. So it's going to be 2 times x, okay? And this would just be 2 times 1x, okay? Or basically the easy way to do it, you just lump them together. When it's 2 times just a variable, it's just 2x, okay? And then also 2 times 4 would be positive 8, okay? Positive 8. So I distributed that 2 to these two terms, and then equals 14 is there on the right, okay? Now that I distributed, now I begin to cancel out the terms to get the x by itself, okay? So I'm going to minus 8 from both sides because that's going to cancel the positive 8, okay? So that cancels. And here I have 14 minus 8. So 14 minus 8 gives me 6 on the right. And here 2x didn't change, so that comes down, 2x. So now I have 2 times the x number equals 6. And you divide by 2 from both sides to find out what that x number is. And we get x equals 6 divided by 2, which is 3. Okay? So that's how we do that one. 2 more, just in case you need them. 5 times the group, negative 4 plus 2x equals 0. Okay? So again, step 1, we distribute. We do 5 times negative 4 and 5 times positive 2x. Okay? So 5 times negative 4 is going to equal negative 20. 5 times 2x, again, remember, just like this one, we just multiply the two numbers together. Okay, just the 2, 5 times 2, I'm going to multiply those to get positive 10, but there's going to be an x on that term too, because it is with the 2x there. Okay, so negative 20 plus 10x equals, on the right here is still 0. So that's step 1, distribute, and now I begin to cancel. Okay, a lot of times kids would try to cancel out this 10x because it's the second term, right? But any term that has a variable with it, you kind of leave that for last because we're going to end up dividing that 10. So I want to cancel out my other number, negative 20. And I cancel that out by adding 20 to both sides, right? Because it's negative, and the negative is going to cancel with that plus or positive 20. So that cancels, and I get plus 20 to both sides. So I get 10x is left here on the left side, and then 0 plus 20 is 20 on the right. And again, last step is to divide by 10 to both sides to cancel out, because this is 10 times x. Cancel out that multiplication. So x equals 20 divided by 10 is 2. Okay. I hope, my goal is that math is all about patterns. It's a process, right? It's a step-by-step process, but I really hope that you guys are starting to see the patterns and the similarities between each problem, okay? And once you start noticing that pattern, that's when you know you're getting it, because that's going to help you to do the rest of the problems a lot easier down the road, okay? Because you're going to know what to do each step of the way. Okay, last problem here, a little bit interesting, okay? So we got a negative 6 times this group, 2x minus 5, equals 18, okay? What's interesting here is we have a negative number on the outside that I'm distributing, okay? So I'm going to do negative 6 times 2x, okay? Again, this one has an x with it, right? So negative 6 times 2 negative 12 x, right? That x comes down with it, okay? But watch this, negative 6. And this is tricky. This says 2x minus 5, okay? But something that you'll see in algebra, a lot of the time, a minus sign in it is kind of the same as a negative. So really, I like to think of this as a negative 5, okay? Because that when I multiply these, that's actually going to help me. Because this ends up being negative 6. And when I think of this as a negative 5, right, think about it, a negative times a negative is going to equal a positive. So negative 6 times negative 5 is going to result in a positive or plus 30, okay? And then equals 18 is there on the right, okay? And now I begin to cancel just like the other ones, okay? So I minus the 30 from both sides because that does not have an x with it, right? This one does. So I cancel out the other one. Minus 30. So 18 minus 30 there on the right gives me a negative 12. And then here on the left is that negative 12x. Okay, now last step. Again, don't add this 12. You think, how is it connected with the x? How is this negative 12 connected with the x? Well, it's connected with multiplication, right? So to cancel out multiplication, I have to divide, do the opposite. So I divide both sides by the negative 12, okay? And that cancels that, but I have x equals negative 12 divided by negative 12, okay? That equals a positive 1, okay? A negative divided by a negative equals a positive, but also it's something divided by itself, right? And anything divided by itself equals 1. All right, so those are a few problems involving distribution and solving equations. Hope that made sense to you. More videos to come here soon.